We've looked at Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 so far to see how far we could get without shooting, and then after that, how many shots it takes to beat those games. And it's been a really interesting experience to kind of see what is required out of the campaigns whenever you're playing through them. And now that we have the scores from Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2 locked down, it's time that we move on to Modern Warfare 3 and see how this game stands in the race for the least amount of shots throughout a campaign. And oh boy, did this one get interesting. Starting things off, we're on the level Black Tuesday, and for the most part, this game takes on a lot of the similar strategies we did from the first two games, where I make a mad run for stuff and then take cover, stab a guy, run back, take some more cover. But this is some really heavy chaos throughout this level. Early on, there is a big truck that comes in and starts shooting where you have to take cover, and my main strategy here was just to throw a grenade at the truck and hope for the best. Fortunately enough, it did work. And as I was getting a feel for Modern Warfare 3 once again and trying to adapt the strategies I had used in COD 4 and Modern Warfare 2 into this game, I realized Modern Warfare 3 actually has a pretty serious mechanic that's much different than the previous games. This time around, it seems like there's so many more enemies, but their aim is absolutely awful on easy difficulty. And since we're not shooting, of course we're going to try this on easy before we would try this on veteran. But I mean, there's a moment where you're running through the stock exchange and there's so many enemies, but their aim is so awful, it's almost funny just to look at. I mean, look at this. Had this been Call of Duty 4, I probably would have been dead so many times by now. Once I made my way up to the rooftops, there's a section where I'm supposed to use a Predator drone, and it is required to get through the level. If you guys remember on the Modern Warfare 2 video, however, a lot of people said in the comments that Predator missiles shouldn't count as shooting, but since the guy literally says nice shooting after I'm done with it, I'm still going to be counting my Predator missile shots that are required and just try not to use them if we have more levels like this later. But if you need to mentally subtract this one, we can go ahead and mentally count this. But there's no way around doing this section without shooting the Predator missile, so we have to take a shot, already officially killing this run, and it is kind of starting this whole run off to a pretty bad start when looking at how well Modern Warfare 2 fared, but maybe things will get easier on later. Next, we go on a helicopter ride, which is really awkward without shooting if you think about it. There's a section where I'm supposed to take out other helicopters, but I'm trying my hardest not to shoot. But unfortunately, we get to yet another section on this first level where there's a required shooting part, and we're in a machine gun this time, which as soon as you press the trigger, it shoots multiple bullets at the same time. Interestingly enough, in all of the runs we've done on this so far, we haven't been in a situation where we have to shoot a gun that's going to shoot multiple bullets, so we're not too sure how to count this. And since there's no way to avoid the helicopter because he just guns us down, my plan was just to tap the trigger on my controller as quickly as possible and count each one of those as a single shot before the helicopter would go down. Fortunately enough, in just one tap, one small burst, it took the helicopter out, which was really surprising, but we're going to count this as one more shot, putting us up to 2 shots fired so far. But honestly, I thought this would be a run killer, thinking I'd have to shoot at the helicopter a bunch before it would finally crash. Next, we're going on to the level Hunter Killer, and honestly, the AIs are super easy to kill. I just stabbed a bunch. We get to this breach room, which is problematic like Modern Warfare 2 was, and while we did find a good strategy in Modern Warfare 2, this time around the double tapping Y trick doesn't work here for whatever reason. It just does not give me the option to stab no matter what I tried. Nothing else works here. There's not a lot of things to even try to get around, so we have to shoot yet again, bringing us up to 3 shots already, and we're only in the second level. This is honestly one of the roughest starts we've had for a run like this. But hey, if things couldn't get worse, we get to this part where there's a boat chase, and the boat makes us shoot the mines. There's nothing else I can do again, so we'll have to shoot again if we want to complete this level to get on to the next one, bringing us up to 4 shots already. And moving on forward, we're going to need a pretty clean run if we're going to stand a chance against beating Call of Duty 4, let alone beating Modern Warfare 2. So hopefully the rest of this run goes a little bit smoother. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Level 3 comes around and we run ahead and accidentally get run over. Yikes. This level's really tricky because it requires you to drive the UGV to clear out the road for Soap and Price. And while this was an interesting situation to be stuck in, I just ran over everyone early on. But you have to be careful because they will destroy the UGV if you're not careful. We get to the end section where you have to clear the area so they can board the helicopter, and this part was so frustrating because not only do the helicopters just destroy the UGV very, very easily, you're required to clear some level of the area, which means there's a ton of variables you have to test out while also being just constantly killed by the helicopters. I did find a corner where I could sometimes survive a little bit longer in the UGV if I didn't look at the helicopters and pretended they weren't there. I would sometimes be able to regenerate my robot health or whatever. But after running various tests, shooting different amounts of enemies to see what it took to get Price and Soap to push up and finally get in the helicopter, I came to the conclusion that the only way you can get through this part is to take out some of the helicopters and still shoot at some of the enemies. The first time I ran this, it took well over 10 shots to clear the whole area out, but after doing a ton of practice and testing out different theories, I chose just to shoot down one of the helicopters, the only one that had missiles on it, and then shot 2 groups of enemies, bringing us down to a required shot count of 4. Maybe someone can do me better and get 3 on this, but I think 4 is probably the absolute bare minimum to get this level to complete. And this is coming from my first run of this, taking well over 10 shots before they would clear this area, so I was okay with taking the 4 shots here. That puts our total count up to 8 shots so far, and we're going on to level 4, and honestly, it's really funny being in the airplane trying to stab people while it's crashing and you're flying through the air, but no shots fired so far. We get to the area after the plane crashes where there's a ton of guys, and I just literally ran past all of them. I was really surprised I was able to do this despite how many people there were here, but it actually worked out well. Level 5, we go to the level back on the grid, and honestly, I was just kind of stealthy and stabbed where I could because literally no one helps you in your team. We got to a section where I'm supposed to get up in the tower and cover Price and Soap, and that's not gonna happen. They then get spotted, all hell breaks loose, and I just kind of run around stabbing as many people as I can, and fortunately enough, we're able to clear this area without it auto-failing you for not protecting them. We get to the next area where they give me orders to get on the back of the truck. However, if I get on the back of the truck, it locks me in place and I just become an easy target to get shot at. So instead, while I did get on the truck one time and got completely wrecked, I just ignored their orders to get on the truck and hid in a corner, and I was able to get off freely. Then moving forward, there's a section where a guy jumps at you with a machete. Uh-oh. This is another kind of weird breaching type event where you're really delayed on what you're able to do, and since my knife is delayed, it kind of could be a major problem to get through this because it wants me to shoot here. Fortunately, after a try or two, I just sidestepped at him and was able to finally get the knife to stab him, and we're able to move to the next section. We got some mortar strikes. Oh boy. This is a required section of the level to shoot to complete the objective, so there's no way to skip this part because the level won't trigger the ending, so we're gonna have to shoot some more here. Now there is an achievement for getting the mortar sequence with only 4 shells, so it looks like we can possibly pull this one off, and actually I believe you can do it with only 3 mortars fired. There's no other way to skip this part, which puts us up to 11 shots, making it officially more shots than Modern Warfare 2, but maybe we can go for a second place win against Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Pushing forward, we have tons and tons of enemies, and then we get into this really weird instance that we hadn't faced in any of the other games where a dog attacks you and it's a scripted sequence. In this case, the game actually requires you to shoot, but I'm not actually the one pulling the trigger. The game kind of does it for you. So this scripted sequence is almost like a cinematic. So since it's not actually me pulling the trigger and it wasn't a fail or no fail section, I'm not going to count this shot because it wasn't actually me doing the shot. It was the game doing it. Next, we go on to Mine the Gap, and this is giving me the Call of Duty 4 AC-130 PTSD flashbacks all over again. I'm worried I'm going to have to shoot a bunch because I don't remember this level too well. But fortunately enough, it's not anything I have to actually shoot out of the camera for, which is different from the Spec Ops version of this level. Running through the early buildings was easy, and then you just kind of fight your way through some big open parking lots and areas. After pushing up a bit, I just decided to sprint through it. There's no real strategy. If you're curious, I just wanted to see if it was possible to get far without having to shoot or having to do it slowly, and sure enough, we actually cleared this area and got to the truck ride part. Somehow we survive all this crazy stuff going down without shooting, and I pretty much just stabbed some more dudes, and hey, at least we beat another level without actually having to take a shot. We get to the fantastic legendary camera level where you walk around with a camera. I tried to avoid the explosion, but instead the explosion just knocked me over the fence. Okay, back to the main levels. We have Goalpost next, and for this one I just kind of ran through the streets and survived somehow. I jump on the the tank minigun, and I didn't shoot and just hoped for the best, and we managed to get through this part, so I'm proud of that. We get to the streets in the next section that are absolutely chaotic. I just used the buildings for cover the best I could and pushed up, getting us into another hostage situation at the end of this level, but this time around, maybe the YY button will actually work and we can pull this one out. It seemed like even though the YY trick from Modern Warfare 2 was working, it would let me reset the time and speed it up. Every time I tried to stab, it seemed to always end in the hostage dying. I tried this several times, and I tried really hard to get the timing right, but it just wouldn't let me stab soon enough, but randomly my teammate just killed him. So we lucked out, I guess. Next, we go to the level Return to Sender, and in this part, we can't actually use the remote chopper in the shipyard, so I just kind of ran through and stabbed. They yell at me to use the remote turret when we get to the end building towards the end section here. At first, I wasn't going to listen, but I decided to open it just to see if it'll trigger the next part of the level, but then all of a sudden the remote turret crashes, or it glitches through buildings. I wasn't really sure what was happening here. And then I got the notice that I failed to escape the crashing helicopter. I really was so confused what was going on here, but I think what happened here is the game glitched me inside of the remote helicopter right when it got a checkpoint. So all of a sudden, as soon as it would load the checkpoint, it would let me pull my gun out while I'm in the remote turret spinning out of control until the game would kill me. I could glitch through walls and it was great, but also kind of awful because it made me have to start the whole level over, and that wasn't fun. So I started the whole level over, ran through it again, and this was another level I was able to complete without shooting, and I just avoided that remote helicopter with my life. Next, we're in this fast-paced level, and I started things off by leaping off a building. Whoops. Either way, we have to run through and throw smoke to have the airstrikes shoot things for me, which was kind of nice, and we get to this section where we have to chase a guy and not die. I think I did relatively well here before getting into the van, and it's another section where you can kind of avoid getting shot if you don't look directly at the enemies, which I still think is one of the funniest mechanics in the Modern Warfare trilogy. But at the end of the van chase, there's a section where you have to shoot the guy's car or he gets away. I spent a lot of time trying to find a way around this one. I was really optimistic. I tried timing grenades and throwing them out the window. However, when I threw grenades and flashbangs, they just disappear into thin air, and ultimately there's nothing you can do here to stop the car other than shooting, and you have to get the shot exactly perfect, which made this part really hard to practice and test around with, because if you don't shoot and hit the target exactly right in the back of the car, you fail and you have to start all over multiple times. And if you don't shoot on the first try, you can maybe hit it in multiple shots, but then that brings our shot count up way too high. So finally, after a ton of practice, I tried shooting to activate the next sequence, and then it gives us a part where the car spins out and you have to kill the two guards in the back. I tried versions where I didn't shoot the two guards and I let them get by, and that fails the level. I tried a part where I only kill one of them, it fails the level. I tried the other one, fails the level. And ultimately, the way that you have to beat this is kill the two guards, bringing us up to a total shot count on this level to 3 and a grand total of 14 in this, and we're going on to Iron Lady, which is an AC-130 level. Oh no. Yes, if you guys remember from Call of Duty 4, the AC-130 level was literally one of the things that completely racked up our run, making us shoot a ton, and this time I was trying to just not shoot and see if anything would happen. And unlike the COD 4 version of this, eventually if you sit around long enough, they'll just run right up through the enemies without me having to shoot. This actually surprised me, and they move up to a street, and at the end of the street there's a BTR, and while I hoped that they would just run past that one too, eventually, while they will move up a little bit, you have to take out the BTR or you'll fail the level. So it made us take a shot for the first time on the AC-130 level, bringing us up to 15. There's another section where there's more enemies and you're supposed to cover for them. I didn't shoot yet again, and the AC-130 co-pilot people said nice shot, even though I didn't even shoot, which was kind of funny. We get to a section where there's a ton of RPGs in the building, which requires us to shoot again. Hopefully we can pull this off in just one shot since there's so many enemies. Unfortunately, it worked, putting us up to 16 shots. We pass the embassy, and then they want me to shoot again. I don't, but it fails the level, so we have to shoot here once again to finally end the AC-130 part, bring us up to 17 shots. Ouch. Then we're back on foot, and there's a section where there's an MG just gunning down at you, and my strategy here was to run ahead, get in this window, and throw a grenade, which actually worked, allowing my team to push up. This courtyard gets very chaotic, it's crazy, and eventually I just threw a smoke at the tank, and an AC-130 took it out after the firefight section. The level then cuts us back to the AC-130 yet again, and you'll fail again if you don't shoot. Fortunately, one shot was enough to clear the area, putting us up to 18, and then we go into an epic chase where they need our help, and we have to shoot yet again to protect the cars from getting blown up. You don't have to do too well, but you have to at least shoot once, getting us up to 19. Then we get to a part where there's just 4 helicopters, and you have to give them cover, you know, because this game wasn't very considerate with this no shooting run that I made up for whatever reason. And while I was nervous I was gonna have to shoot 4 times in this level at the helicopters alone, fortunately enough, if I just take out one of the helicopters at the right time, it will move the level up without you having to shoot the other 3, getting us to 20 shots. And after all of that, we get to another required javelin section, which was commonplace in Call of Duty 4, and we just don't catch a break here. You can't beat this level without taking out the tank either, so we have 21 shots, which was very rough, but we beat this level. At least we can finish out this game and see how many shots we have to do, but it's not looking like this game is gonna be on any least amount of shots we ever do for this series. Then we get to Eye of the Storm, which was the most challenging level in the entire Modern Warfare trilogy, because there's so many variables here that I have to test to see what the least amount of shots possible on this level truly is. Typically, when you play through these types of runs, you either know if you can do it without shooting, or you have to shoot to move on. But this level seems to have so many variables, there was a lot of testing to do. In the first section, there's a bunch of guys, and they want you to take out the snipers first, but instead I alerted them, and essentially all of the enemies here just aggro you and ignore your teammates, which is really weird. So my strategy was to throw a grenade and then run all the way back and hide and knife them one by one as they came through. The section took a ton of testing because I would die just so often. They even put a line, a invisible line, that if you pass the line, the level will insta-kill you if you don't kill all of the enemies here. So I kind of was stuck to make sure every single enemy was truly dead before I moved up, or else we were back at the first checkpoint. And then to make it even more difficult, there's 2 snipers up there that you also have to take out to get rid of the invisible insta-death line. If you time your grenades properly and you're aware of how many grenades you have left, you can take out both of these snipers, but fortunately enough, Soap helped out a little bit and we were able to actually clear the section, but this took way too long. The rest of this level has a ton of sneaking around and navigating, and as you push forward, you get to this big open courtyard where they need you to shoot at the sniper, and if you don't do this part right, all hell absolutely breaks loose, and sometimes the game actually will just auto kill you and you don't have anything you can do here. I honestly tried so many different types of methods, whether it was throwing a grenade or just going loud trying to take the military that's in front of me out on my own. Neither of these worked well for me. So finally, after testing this for way too long, I finally decided I'm probably gonna have to snipe that sniper on the building, and as I look through my scope, Captain Price shows up and takes the guy out. Yeah, I was not remembering this level too well, obviously, but he saved us a shot there, and I wish I would have known this ahead of time because I would have saved all of that trouble trying to test this out had I known that I didn't have to shoot anyways. But hey, look, one of those guys actually glitched falling and he's just floating there. It's a little funny. We push forward a bit and we get to the section with another BTR, and I'm supposed to shoot it with an RPG. I tried again to run around and get around this part, but if you pass too far ahead, there's another invisible line that will auto kill you. So I tried spamming grenades at it and had no luck, so we had to shoot again, bringing us up to 22 shots. And then we get to this section with 2 machine gun turrets just shooting at us, and it has another death line, so we have to take out the machine gun turrets if we want to move up in the level, or else the game just auto kills you. This part took me so long because honestly the only strategy I had was to just lob grenades and hope that I had enough grenades left to kill the 2 people that were up there, and also hope that the cars that are on fire around me don't explode and kill me, or I don't get pushed by another enemy and he melees and insta kills me. So after a ton of practice trying to find the right trajectory on different grenade throws to get these 2 people, I finally was able to get through this, and I was finally able to push on to the next part where you have to move through running past stuff and crawling around. We get across the street after the tanks drive by, and we ran into this group that weren't holding guns. They're kind of just making finger guns. Maybe they're glitched? I didn't really know what this group was doing. I stabbed one of them and tried to proceed, but the level just slowly killed me for whatever reason. I have no idea what happened here. So we ran that section again, and we were able to actually beat this level with only shooting that one shot. Next, we get to Blood Brothers, and this level was really interesting because it is more of a defense-based level, but you do have the sniping section in the beginning where you have to cover Price. However, for this part, the only way you can get Price to actually drop down and start the whole kind of scripted sequence that happens here is to shoot the first guy. I shot, and the rest was Soap doing all the work, and then the scripted sequence starts, all the chaos happens, and then you have to defend Price and Soap as they try to get into safety, and I just didn't help. I threw some grenades and stabbed a little bit, but otherwise I didn't do anything. But we were able to beat this level only shooting that one shot at the beginning, putting us up to a grand total of 23 total shots. Next, we're moving on to Stronghold, which is a little bit of a lengthier level where you have to kind of use night vision and sneak around before making a mad escape. For this one, I mostly just stabbed and ran. Kind of formulaic for these types of videos, but hey, it worked here. Next, we're going on to Scorched Earth, and at the beginning, I just ran through buildings, stabbing my way past everything. There's a part where you're supposed to take out the targets on the roof with a sniper, but honestly, I just kind of waited for a bit, and then eventually some helicopters came by to take them out. There was the next section where I had to then defend those allies across, and my teammates just did all the work. So I just kind of hung out on the roof for a bit. Then after that, we just had to paint some targets for a strafe run, and then we get to the part with a tank, and it's another one of those tanks where we have to shoot or we fail the mission. I tried grenades and everything. Can't do anything but have to shoot here. So we used an RPG, taking the tank out, putting us up to 24 shots. Then we continue to push up the streets, and this part was actually really hard even with the tank support. There's just enemies everywhere. And then at the end of the level, there's a section where you have to breach, but it's a failed breach, and you have to shoot. Otherwise, you just kind of lay there awkwardly before they kill you. And it's another one where you can't stab, you can't throw grenades. I tried timing grenades at the door, it would just kill me also. So we had to make 2 more shots, putting us all the way up to 26 shots. Then we go on to Down the Rabbit Hole, and this part is so chaotic, so I just ran for my life and hoped for the best, and it actually worked after a few tries. We get through into the mine where we save the president's daughter, but we have to continue to go after the president. There's a section where you have to drop in, and it's kind of like a breaching section. And for once, the YY trick from Modern Warfare 2 actually worked here, which was really satisfying to save the day with a knife. So then we kind of just pushed through to the holdout section, and then the level enters you into the escape sequence, which you also don't have to shoot as they drag you into the helicopter. Then we get to Dust to Dust, the final level in Modern Warfare 3 and the final level in this trilogy of no-shoot runs. Now, we already know that in the final section when you face off against Makarov, you don't have to actually shoot at all, so it's just a matter of getting to that last encounter to possibly get this final run done. So starting things off, we have a Juggernaut suit, and it definitely helps a lot here. You can take a lot of hits, but you run really slow. So I ended up trading one of my weapons for a pistol that I picked up off of an enemy so I can move a little bit faster, which helps with my stabs, even though you have to watch out not to get punched, because for some reason if you get punched you still die very easily. We finally make our way to the elevator, and honestly this is the last challenge in this run that we are faced with, where while we go up the elevator, a helicopter comes and you have to destroy the helicopter to move on. I was hoping Yuri would do the work. He doesn't help you at all. I tried cooking grenades, that doesn't work. Flashbangs, it doesn't work at all. So we were at the point where we were gonna have to shoot at the helicopter to take it out. Now the problem is, this isn't like the helicopter we faced earlier in Modern Warfare 3 where just one burst took it out. This helicopter is really tanky. So this is actually the first time we've ever been in a section where we're expected to do a ton of damage, and we don't have an RPG or something like that to take the helicopter out. Honestly, I tried cooking grenades as long as I could. I tried maybe even firing at it one time with an AK. No luck. Yuri can't take him out. I ran around the whole opening area looking for an RPG or something I could use there. there to no avail either. And then I remembered at the beginning of the level, I had switched my gun with the pistol, and that gun actually had a grenade launcher. So I started the level over, this time bringing the grenade launcher with me, and we get to finally face off against the helicopter, this time at least with an explosive. After a couple of tries, I finally hit the helicopter, and the helicopter didn't go down. Yeah, that just shows how tanky this helicopter is, but you have to actually shoot the helicopter 3 times with a grenade launcher attachment if you want it to go down. My aim is really bad here, but I tested it that it has to be 3 shots hit, so that is kind of the only option we have. But the problem is hitting the helicopter is really hard with the way that it flies around, the way that the grenade launcher's bullet kind of drops. It makes it really hard to predict where the bullet's gonna go according to where the helicopter is moving. But eventually, after a ton of trial and error, I was able to hit the helicopter 3 times, taking it down. This is the only section out of all of these runs where I did shoot more than 3 times, but I only actually hit 3 of the shots on the helicopter, and I didn't want to sit there trying again to have a perfect 3 shots land in a row. But we know for the sake of this, it can be completed in 3 shots, giving us the most accurate number. I also then, right after that, tested how many shots it would have taken from a regular assault rifle without using the grenade launcher, and it took 2.5 clips. So if we were trying to decide whether or not we should shoot or use the grenade launcher, we would have had a much higher total shot count. Had we have used the full auto weapon on this, we would have been somewhere in the 90 shots. So instead, the 3 shots put us up to a grand total of 29 shots. From there, we were able to complete this level and thus complete Modern Warfare 3, meaning that you can complete Modern Warfare 3 with only shooting 30 times, or at least there's 30 required shots. Definitely is the most shots out of any game, and this game was interesting enough as there were a lot of places where it really forced you to shoot, but there was a lot of areas that were actually really easy comparatively to Modern Warfare 2 and Call of Duty 4 running up and stabbing. So it was a really interesting mix here, and it's been interesting to see how these games stack up against each other. We have one more main game in the Modern Warfare franchise, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, that we will be looking at next, so be sure you're subscribed with notifications on for more videos like this. But also, if there's another Call of Duty game you want me to one day take a look at after we finish up Modern Warfare, let me know. Where should I start if we decide to continue this on? Anyways guys, we'll see you all next time with a brand new video. Bye guys.